Halloween's over and we're into November, which means the holidays are just around the corner. And this year, Hanukkah is especially close, and that's got me thinking Babka. It's a Jewish bakery specialty that's basically a cross between a bread and a cake. Loaded with decadent chocolate filling, layered in rich brioche dough, this artisanal looking pastry is sweet and indulgent, but despite its appearance, it's actually pretty easy to make. Let's get started. First off, I'll heat my milk and water to 120 degrees Fahrenheit on the stove, and add them to my mixing bowl with my yeast and a pinch of sugar. Give that a mix and set it aside to do its thing. Meanwhile, I'll mix together my bread flour, pastry flour, salt, and remaining sugar. When my yeast is nice and active and ready to go, I'll add my dry ingredients into the bowl and then using my hook attachment, mix until combined and add in my eggs one at a time until it forms a cohesive but extremely dry dough. Don't worry, it's not going to stay this dry. This dough is like half butter. 1 tablespoon at a time, I'll add in my butter, allowing it time to incorporate before adding in more. Don't worry if it comes apart a little bit, it'll come back together, but if it starts spinning around the outside of the bowl and not mixing at all, just squish it back into the bowl and turn the mixer back on. When all the butter is incorporated, the dough will be extremely soft, supple, and smooth and smell intensely of heavenly butter. So I'll plop it into my bowl, cover it, and stick it in the fridge for 6 to 8 hours, or until after a long night of being woken up by my toddler. Then I'll pull it out of the fridge and set it on the counter to warm up ever so slightly to make it easier to work with while I work on my chocolate filling. For that, I'm going to use a double boiler, which is basically just a bowl on top of a pot of simmering water. Ideally, a pot smaller than the bowl is best for this to avoid any chance of splashing, and the water should be heated just enough to release some steam, but not to a full boil to reduce the chance of burnt chocolate. Then to that bowl, I'll add my roughly chopped dark chocolate, my unsalted butter, some espresso powder if I've got it, some vanilla extract, and optionally, some almond extract. Then I'll place that on my double boiler and stirring frequently give that chocolate time to melt. It starts off really slow at first, but as the chocolate melts, the liquid chocolate really speeds the rest of the solid through the melting. You can do this in the microwave if you prefer, but personally, I like this better because I can see and feel exactly what's going on as it's happening. I don't like the lack of control with the microwave, but if it's what you're comfortable with, just go ahead and do that. When it's all molten and flowing, I'll throw it in my oven with just the light on to help keep it from hardening up too much, so I can easily throw it back in the double boiler for just a moment when I'm ready for it. Then I'll press some air out of my dough and plop it out on a moderately floured surface. If there's too little flour, it's going to stick rather than spread when I go to roll it. I'll try to form my dough into a rough rectangle and roll it out to about 1/4 inch thick, doing my best to keep it as rectangular as possible. When I've cleaned up any excess flour, I'll pour all of my chocolate on there and spread it evenly over the surface of my dough, working my way to just about the edge. I'll add in any optional additions I want for texture and start rolling this bad boy up, similar to a cinnamon roll. I like to give my dough a little stretch as I roll to try and keep the layers as tight as possible and avoid any separation between the layers after baking. Then, using a bread knife, I'll cut off the uneven ends because I'm extra like that, and cut it lengthwise down the center. I'll lay my two halves parallel to each other, and then carefully lay them over each other almost like a braid, tuck my ends in, and place that in a pan-sprayed loaf pan covered for 45 minutes to an hour to proof, during which time it's not going to fully double. If your dough gets a little too warm like mine did, you can transfer it to a sheet pan or cutting board and toss it in the fridge for about 15 minutes to let that buttery dough firm up before cutting it. When it's nice and proofed and puffy and exciting looking, I'll throw it in a 375 degree oven for 45 to 50 minutes. And turn my apron around so you get to how big a mess I made. Now, traditionally, babkas are brushed with a simple syrup after baking, which helps glaze it and moisten it and help sweeten it, which kind of also adds to the is it a bread or is it a cake debate. Simple syrup, for anyone who doesn't know, is just equal parts, usually sugar and water, that are heated enough to dissolve all the sugar, then cooled, or not cooled for some things, like it wouldn't matter for this. I wanted to take this just a little step further and try something just a little bit more interesting, and I was thinking rum. So I took 4 ounces of this local rum, optionally boiled off the alcohol for about 10-20 seconds, because, you know, kids, and then added my sugar and brushed this on my babka prior to the last 5 to 10 minutes of baking. Usually you would do this at the end and it would just soak in, but I wanted to do this a little bit before and give it a little bit of a glossy, caramelized glaze kind of feel. And did I ever give it that? Look at this thing, dude. I know you've already seen it in the thumbnail intro, but whatever. This thing came out damn fine if I do say so myself. Now, because it's full of molten chocolate, I'm going to let it cool all the way down before I try taking it out of the pan. But before I do, I'm going to brush it with the rest of my simple syrup and just let that soak in over the next hour or so. At which point I can finally get to the moment I've been anxiously waiting for. Let's see the inside of this thing. And it could not have turned out any better if I tried, man, but looks are not everything. If it doesn't taste good, it doesn't matter how pretty it is. Thankfully, it's perfect. It's soft and rich and sweet, buttery, delicious. The almond is there, but only as a compliment to the chocolate, and that rum glaze was just the right special touch to add to this to take to that special place I wanted it to go. That's all I got for this one though. If you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it, be sure to hit the like button, consider subscribing, and let me know in the comments and on Instagram or Twitter if you decide to give this a try. Thanks so much, as always, for watching, and I will see you next time.